Good afternoon, gentlemen of the press. We have invited you today to, through you, alert Nigerians and the international community of a very dangerous design by the All Progressive Congress in connivance with certain judicial officers to abridge our democratic system and foist anarchy in our country. Today, Thursday, May 19, 2022, the People's Democratic Party has just been made aware of a bizarre judgment by Honorable Justice Ibrahim Mohammed of the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, in suit number FCT HC/CV/910/2022, wherein he attempted to extend by 1 year the tenure of the outgoing chairmen and councillors of the FCT area councils, which expires tomorrow, Friday, May 20, 2022. The clear intent of this judgment is to abridge our electoral process, overthrow the entire outcome of the FCT area council election held on Saturday, February 12, 2022, which was overwhelmingly won by the candidates of the PDP, hold the swearing in of the newly elected chairmen and councillors, and impose an undemocratic government in the FCT. The PDP vehemently and without equivocation rejects the judgment in its entirety. This judgment cannot be executed as it is unconstitutional, illegal, baseless, and devoid of any legal foundation and reasoning for implementation. This is because the 4-year tenure provided for FCT area council chairmen and councillors in the newly enacted Electoral Act 2022, upon which the judgment is based, cannot be made retroactive to apply to outgoing chairmen and councillors who were elected under the 2010 Electoral Act, which provides for a 3-year tenure commencing from the date of their swearing in. Alarmingly, the intent of this judgment by Honorable Justice Ibrahim Mohammed is to make the law retroactive to illegally favor the outgoing chairmen and councillors who were sworn in for a 3-year tenure under the 2010 Electoral Act, which tenure by the provision of that act ends on May 20, 2022. It is instructive to say that the Electoral Act 2022 has a commencement date of February 25, 2022. It is tried in law that laws become effective from their commencement date and cannot be retroactive in effect, as being attempted by Honorable Justice Ibrahim Mohammed. It is even more worrisome that the FCT High Court, presided over by Honorable Justice Ibrahim Mohammed, would allow itself to be used to a point where it can give a judgment which judge knows or ought to know is illegal, as no law can be made retroactive. Nigerians are invited to note that the court gave judgment in this case with a set of individuals as claimants and the Minister of FCT as the sole defendant, leaving out other necessary parties, including the PDP, whose candidate won the majority of seats in the February 12, 2022 elections, the National Assembly that enacted the law, the Attorney General of the Federation, who has the responsibility of executing the law, and of course the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, which conducted the elections. The PDP is persuaded to believe that the judgment is a deliberate attempt to subvert the democratic process without regard to the consequential crisis and restiveness such portend in the FCT. The seamless transfer of power from one administration to another is the bedrock of democracy, which the PDP is noted for having peacefully transferred power to the present APC-led government in 2015. The APC should know that any breakdown of law and order in the FCT on account of an attempt to muzzle or abridge the rights and the will of the people will be inconsistent with that very fundamental principle of democracy, which is the peaceful transfer of power from one administration to another. Moreover, we hope this is not an attempt to lay a foundation to use the court to actualize a veiled third-term agenda being rumored. The APC should know that such will be firmly resisted by Nigeria and the whole world. In any case, the PDP cautions the outgoing chairmen and councillors whose tenure under the 2010 Electoral Act, upon which they were sworn in, will effectively come to an end by the efflution of time on Friday, May 20, 2022. They should therefore steer clear of the respective area councils' offices from that date. The PDP calls on the people of the FCT to get ready for the swearing in of their new chairmen and councillors, duly elected on February 12, 2022, as our party takes firm legal steps to address the orchestrated attempt by the APC and Justice Ibrahim Mohammed to frustrate the will of the people. The PDP urges the Chief Justice of Nigeria, the CJN, to protect the integrity of the judiciary by immediately calling Honorable Justice Ibrahim Mohammed to order, especially for violating the CJN's persistent admonitions to judges not to open themselves to political manipulations. The Honorable Justice Ibrahim Mohammed, by this judgment, has brought the institution of the judiciary into disrepute. Our party will ensure that this illegal judgment is set aside, as well as take firm steps against Justice Ibrahim Mohammed, including referring his conduct, which is unbecoming of a judicial officer, to the National Judicial Council for sanction, so as to restore the confidence Nigerians have on the very respected institution of the judiciary. Thank you very much for listening. We're a law-abiding party. We believe in the rule of law. As indicated and stated clearly in that statement, we will take all appropriate action to set aside that judgment, because the judgment is illegal, it is uncalled for, it is an abridgment of the rights and the will of the people, and it cannot stand. We have multiple ways of responding to that, and the party would explore every aspect of that within the law to ensure that this illegality does not stand.
But I follow up, sir. In another breath, you said the elected chairman should be ready, get ready for swearing in tomorrow. Is that really a contradiction?
There's no contradiction. There's what we say by fluxion of time. We are a country of laws. Even though we have been inundated with the illegality and the impunity of the APC, what we have just said clearly is to say in very clear terms that they should respect the law, their tenure expires tomorrow, and they should peacefully live there. And they should just emulate the behavior, the conduct of the PDP, which is a democratic party that believes in the peaceful transfer of power.
Yes, sir. Should anything happen tomorrow, what will your party be doing? Because flowing from what you read, and flowing from the question my colleagues asked, you advise the incumbent to quit tomorrow, and you equally call on your people to prepare for the swearing in tomorrow. So if they storm their various secretariat tomorrow, what will happen? What will
Well, I like each time I hear you ask questions, you ask for semantics. If. And that's a big if. You are imagining things that may not happen. I've referenced that this is a country of laws, of rule of law, and we expect that the conduct that is worldwide in terms of best practices in democracy is for a peaceful transfer of power. The APC are beneficiaries of that process. I do not see them being able to survive an attempt to scuttle it. The people that were told to leave, we're not telling them like an order, we're telling them to obey the process in a civilized society. The tenure ends tomorrow. They have been elected under the 2010 Electoral Act that provided for 3-year tenure from the date of swearing in. You recall that in that statement we mentioned, the elections were held on February 7, 2022. The Electoral Act came into being on 25th of February 2022. Clear 2 weeks. Therefore, they cannot and they were never elected under the 2022 Act. They were elected and sworn in under the 2010 Act. That is the whole essence about democracy. That is the essence of rule of law, and that's what we talk about civilized society. Nigeria is civilized. We know we've been going through a lot of trial and stress under the APC. We know they came with chaos, but we'll have to stop that slide into chaos.
Have you attuned your mind, because you talked about the rule of law, have you attuned your mind to the fact that the rule of law now, what is law now, is judgment. And then you have to vacate it before you can. And looking at this times lag and all that, have you attuned your mind to that scenario? I
think you need to distinguish and clearly understand the background of the comments we've made. We're talking about two laws. From the 25th of February, the 2010 Act ceases to operate. However, the individuals that are now claiming for an extension of time were elected under the 2010 Electoral Act that prescribed 3-year tenure from the date of swearing in. That 3 years expires tomorrow. They were never elected under the 2022 Electoral Act that provided for 4-year tenure. So you cannot create and make that law of 2010 to continue to be relevant today, which is May 19. So there are no contradictions there. It's the perspective of the laws under which they were elected and under which they were sworn in and to which they are bound. And the laws cannot be made retroactive. The judge knows that, he ought to know that, and that is why his behavior in granting in that judgment, which is here, is less than normal for a judicial officer. And that's why the party will take actions that will be necessary to ensure that the confidence, the belief that Nigerian people have in the judiciary is not destroyed by the action or inaction or connivance of one judicial officer. But for any sinister agenda, it is inconceivable that the APC government would not have said something about this yesterday. They should be alarmed that under the watch of the APC, that a judge will give judgments that seems to create an illegality and to create in such a way that from tomorrow, any action taken by the current occupants of that office will be illegal because they do not again have the mandate. And that judgment cannot provide a mandate that was never provided by the Act, under which they were elected. So for us, we just know that beyond this, and it's typical of the APC, in every aspect of our life, they find a way to create impunity, either in the economy, either in the banking sector, where they have a CBN governor who is a card-carrying member of the APC, contrary to the provisions of the CBN Act, specifically Section 9 of that Act of 2007, and as a government continues to harbor that tells you that they have other ulterior motives. It is sad that this is happening to us. In other climes, in other countries, civilized societies, if the CBN governor is ill, the economy begins to tumble around. The stock market begins to react. But what do you find here? Of course we are reacting. But because there's no monitoring process here, And because the impunity has been elevated to an act of government here, then that seems to be okay. Again, we're taking this opportunity to call on Mr. Emefiele to resign now. He has violated the CBN Act. The sanction under Section 11 is for him to be dismissed for gross misconduct. If the government will not, which we believe will not, the Nigerian people will demand that an action will be taken for him to leave. But in his own interest, it is nice that he leaves now because Nigerians have demanded that he should leave. He's saying there immorally and illegally haven't been confirmed as a member, a registered member, a card-carrying member of the APC from his ward. Thank you very much.
Thanks for checking out SYMFONI on YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe and like our videos for updates.